right, parents of little babies, are you ready to let your baby start trying real food? It can be a little scary if you don't know what to do, but we have some help for you. Here to discuss some practical strategies to get our babies starting to eat real people food, not just their yummy milk, is registered dietitian and feeding expert Rachel Rothman. Rachel, thanks so much for coming back.
Thank you so much for having me.
We had you come on to talk about how to get our toddlers to behave and eat some food without going, getting crazy. We had so much viewer response. We asked you to come back. I'm dealing with my little baby now starting to eat some real food. I know that's a challenge for people. So there are different methods. There are the baby-led weaning. That's when you actually cut up little pieces of your food that you're eating at dinner, right?
Yes.
Or at lunch. Into bite-sized pieces. Should you do that, or should you do purees like you get in the jar?
Yeah, so those are the two different methods. There's spoon-feeding purees, which is kind of the traditional method, and then baby-led weaning, which is giving your baby solid pieces of food. So examples of that might be cooked sweet potato, cooked vegetables, well-cooked meats or eggs or pasta. And parents can choose whichever way they want to do it.
Is one better than the other?
One's not necessarily better. What I really recommend is first to let your baby, to be responsive to your baby and to kind of see what your baby responds to, and also see what you feel more comfortable with. A lot of people like baby-led weaning because it is giving your baby some opportunity for motor skills development. They're able to pick up the food themselves. You can feed them similar food to what you're eating as well. But you can choose to do whatever method works for you. You can also combine the methods. So you can do some puree, some spoon-feeding puree, some baby-led weaning, whatever works for you and your family.
Okay, so if you are doing purees, I have, my sister-in-laws have said, okay, do avocado first, sweet potato first, and go to sweet peas. Is there any one thing that you should try first? And how long, once you try a food, should you keep them on that until you switch to something new?
Yes, good question. So we know now you can really start with any food you want. Something important to consider is iron. So babies start to need a supplemental source of the mineral iron around 6 months of age. So I recommend thinking of food sources that have iron in them. So meat, fish, eggs, these can all be foods that you can provide really early on as babies start feeding. Yes,
okay, that's interesting to know.
Yes, so you can kind of do what's more important than kind of exactly what you do is think about variety also. So you're talking about like sweet potato, peas, different foods to introduce a variety. A lot of people call the first 6 months of feeding, kind of from 6 to 12 months, the honeymoon period of feeding, because babies, they're learning. It's all about exploration and exposure and kind of getting them to explore and really learn this new skill of eating.
Okay, so then do you do it twice a day, once a day when you're just starting out? Because until they turn 1, they're getting most of their nutrition from the milk, right?
Yes.
So do you try the food at lunch and dinner, breakfast and lunch? What do you do?
Yes. So what I recommend, is to think about kind of a schedule starting out. I usually recommend thinking about starting with 1 time per day, usually at a time when baby's not necessarily really hungry, because a lot of times they might get frustrated that they're not going to take in very much, and not necessarily right after breast milk or formula, because a lot of times they're sleepy. Yeah, exactly. And they're full. So trying to find a time in between that when they're alert and you can kind of have fun with it. So I start out with 1 time per day. That might be morning, that might be afternoon, and then you're going to slowly increase it as they get older to 2 meals to 3 meals until they're finally eating more solid foods.
Okay, we've got some questions from viewers. We always got a lot of these in. So one question says, when do I introduce some of those higher allergenic foods, and how do I do it? How do I know if my baby has a food allergy? Like eggs, like peanut butter. When can you start introducing that, and how do you do it?
Yes, so the top 8 allergens, let's see if I can remember: eggs, peanuts, tree nuts, soy, fish, shellfish, milk, and I'm forgetting one, but they're basically called the top 8 allergens, and it's recommended that you start introducing these as you start introducing food. So there's the American Academy of Pediatrics doesn't recommend waiting to introduce these, so you can start as you start introducing food.
You told me with peanut butter, make it runny enough so it's not going to get too sticky for her to swallow.
Yes, and that's true actually for all the allergens, is to just make sure you're introducing them in a safe way. I have a great handout on introducing them that I can link on my Facebook page for your viewers. But it's about safe ways to introduce these foods to infants.
Okay, so many. We have more questions. We'll actually answer those on Facebook. You can follow me. I'll link you to Rachel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So good. So many moms and dads are talking about this, Rachel.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.